hope you've had a wonderful weekend, you've had a chance to rest, you're feeling better, and that you're hopefully as good as new now. I'm so sorry that you had to be sick last week. I know that is just so no fun at all. So hopefully you are on the mend and all good to go now. And the stuff that you sent me for your videos, for everything you've been working on, looks so good. So even with being sick last week, you still did a great job with your practice and with what you were working on from what we had talked about from the week before. So awesome work. We're gonna go through everything here, and then you did such a great job on everything. I just have a couple little things for you to include in your practice this week, and we should be good to go. So your theory page, we had page 26 with all of those quarter rests, and you did a wonderful job on those. I know those can be the most tricky rests to have to practice drawing and to draw well, and you did such a good job. It's weird because they're basically just little squiggles, but you drew them in very well, and you were very consistent. You had to draw a lot of them for that whole page. You did an excellent job. So what I actually want to do, we are going to skip ahead a little bit in our theory book. We're going to skip past a few pages, but I'd actually like to just take the rest of this week off for theory, so we won't have a new theory assignment. We'll have a little bit of a break, and then we'll go over a new page when I see you on Friday. So your E pentascale looked awesome, even with both of those sharps in there. I know that can be a little tricky to get used to, and then figuring out where your fingers need to go to play the A after you've played the G sharp. You did such a great job, hands together, looking awesome. What I want you to practice between now and Friday is we're also going to work on this legato. So we've got all of our notes down, our coordination between both hands is looking really good. Next step is smoothing out all of those notes. So instead of it feeling more like one note at a time like this, right, we can smooth it all out and connect it from one note to the next. Right? Hear the difference? So that's how we'll work on it for this week, okay? I also want you to try out the E blocked triads. So you should already have this technique page, and I will make sure I double check that before I get this video sent off. If you are possibly missing it, I will make sure I send it over to you so you'll have it for this week. But for the E blocked triads, we're going to take those three notes that give us an E chord, which is E, G sharp, and B, right? E, G sharp, and B. How you end your pentascale, and we're going to take that and do the same thing we've done with our other block triads. Practice that hand over hand coordination. So let's see how we do just giving that a try on your own this week. If you run into trouble or you end up with some questions about it, then just take a break and we can always go through it together on Friday. But I wonder now if we've done enough of those block triads that you can maybe give it a try on your own this week and just see how that goes, okay? So we'll do the E pentascale and the blocked triads for our technique this week, since with the pentascale we just need to get that legato sound. All right, so now let's talk about, let's do Call of the Horn next. So this one we have made some great progress on. We had two lines hands together, one line hands alone, and we've got a lot of ties, and we have got a lot of things to keep track of on that second line. Your second line especially looks so good. It looks like we're really getting the hang of playing both parts in each hand there at the same time, and your notes are looking great. Really nice job there. So what we're going to do for this week is we're going to start looking at some of those half notes in the second line. So if you notice, and I'm going to just pop it up here in case you don't have your book handy when you're watching this. So on that second line, you see how in the right hand, we actually have quite a few half notes sneaking in here, right? So we start with a half note, and then we have two quarter notes. And then we go to another half note and two quarter notes. And then we do that same thing again, half note, two quarter notes, and then kind of the different measure here at the end with whole notes in both hands, right? So what we're going to do now is we're going to start trying to make those half notes sound different from the quarter notes, okay? So that means when you practice this, all you have to do is start thinking about including a pause. So I'm just going to play the right hand part so that you can hear that. Right now, we're kind of just making sure that we get all of those notes lined up correctly, right? So it sounds a little bit like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, which sounds really nice, right? That's a nice little melody right there. But it's not the rhythm we have on the page, right? So instead, here's how I want you to try it for this week. I just want you to think of pause right after you play those half notes. So it goes something more like this. Half note, pause, quarter, quarter, pause, quarter, quarter, pause, quarter, quarter, and then big long whole note, right? So you can hear we're just holding out those half notes for an extra beat so that they feel a little bit longer, like we have that built-in pause right after we play them, okay? So we'll give that a try this week. Again, if you can just think to yourself, play, pause, quarter, quarter, play, pause, quarter, quarter. See if that helps with holding out those half notes for 2 counts instead of 1 so that they sound longer than all of those quarter notes. Now on the third line, we did an excellent job going through our notes there for both hands, even with all those big long tie notes for the left hand. I know sometimes it can just be kind of boring having to sit there and try and count out all of those beats that you're supposed to be holding one note for. You did a wonderful job. I want you over the next couple of days to try out putting that both hands together. Because if you notice, your left hand only plays 2 times in the whole line, right? So you can just make sure that you put your G down in the left hand at the right time and then just leave it alone. Go on with the right hand while your left hand is just kind of chilling, holding down the fort. And then, as long as you know where your left hand has to play down on that G again, you can just, again, leave your left hand alone and focus on the right hand and continue out the rest of the line, okay? So what that ends up sounding like is 1, 2, 3, 4, still holding that G, and play again together. See, your left hand really doesn't have much to do there, right? You just got to kind of figure out where your left hand needs to play down on the G, where does it come in, and then just leave it alone. Focus on the right hand until your left hand has to come in again, okay? So give that a try. Like I said, if you run into some problems since we weren't able to go through it, at the same time together, that is okay, okay? So rather than if it gets a little frustrating, don't try and force your way through it so that you get even more upset with it, right? Because that doesn't really usually give us a good result, right? And I have done that myself too. It's usually actually better to just walk away from it, take a little break, and then come back and try it again the next day. Now, 2 days in a row, if you've kind of noticed, oh my goodness, this is just not working out for me, then maybe that's a good sign for us to leave it alone a little bit. Just go back to hands alone practice until our next lesson, and then we can go through it together in the lesson, try and figure out maybe what was giving you some trouble, okay? So give it a try again. You could have no problems at all. If that's the case, fantastic. But if something does come up and it's giving you some trouble and it's just being more tricky than coming together how you want it to, take a break, try it again the next day. If it's still giving you the same problems, then just go back to hands alone and we'll work on it in the lesson, okay? Again, excellent job with that. We are making some really good progress with that. And then the last one we had was Thanksgiving turkey. I think I just passed it. I did. There we go. So Thanksgiving turkey, you did such a good job on your notes on this one. So I think that's something I noticed. You're very consistent with all of your notes this week. I love that. So what I want to do is actually play through the left hand on the measure 1 of this song because, like I said, your notes, perfect. So now we're going to pay a little bit more attention to what our rhythm is doing. So on your first measure, we play G, and then we have a B and a C and a D, right? It's almost like the beginning of a G pentascale, but we don't have an A showing up in there, right? So if you notice, again, I'll kind of show you here in case you don't have it up in front of you. On this piece, when we look at our very first measure, so we have a quarter note for the G, and then we actually have 2 eighth notes here, right? Because they're beamed across the top right there, followed by a half note on the D. So we have quarter, eighth, and then a half note. Lots of different rhythm values in this measure, right? So what we're going to do is try and make those eighth notes faster than everything else that you play, okay? Because the eighth notes, if you remember, these are kind of the interesting ones. They only get half a count each. It's not even a full count. So they actually just move kind of quickly here. So what we want is, instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, where all the notes kind of get the same value as far as how fast they are and when they come in, instead we'll try making those eighth notes faster. So it goes more like this. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and then long on the half note there, right? So one more time, it sounds like this. And it's almost like we get these 3 notes all in a row, right? The B, C, D, the da, da, da. They all kind of feel like one little phrase there. And then we just start it with the G. So let's give that a try this week. We'll focus more on the rhythm now that we've really got the notes down super, super good. And I also want you to see if you can figure out measure 4 for the right hand, because you've got measure 3 down, perfect. Now we'll take a look at measure 4, because there's really not that much for us left to do after that for the right hand, right? So I want you to just see how you do with figuring out those notes this week. You've got 4 notes in that measure, so I would use some kind of a trick if you don't recognize it right away, or you can always check your note reading guide or your flashcards if you're getting kind of stuck and you're just not remembering how to figure out what that note is. So use something that you have, like a tool that you have nearby, to figure out your first note of measure 4. And then remember, you can also look for how your notes are moving, right? Are they stepping? Are they going up or down? Are they staying the same? Are there skips or bigger jumps in there? So look for those clues as well. But see how you do with just trying to work out the notes for measure 4 on your own this week, okay? All right, you've done a wonderful job again, and I hope you have a great rest of your week, and then I'm looking forward to seeing you on Friday.